and deadly attacks which were carried out yesterday against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war. This will require our country to unite in steadfast determination and resolve. Freedom and democracy are under attack. The United States has all our resources to conquer this enemy. We will rally the world. We will be patient. We'll be focused. And we will be steadfast in our determination. This battle will take time and resolve. But make no mistake about it, we will win.
We will win. Strong words from the president earlier today commenting on yesterday's staggering events tied to the attack on America. Good evening, I'm Carrie LaPoo.
And I'm Jackie Nealon. Mark Despotakis now joins us live in the TV5 newsroom with a recap of Tuesday's terroristic activities. Mark?
Indeed, thank you, ladies. We've been following a lot of details for you, things that have been going on yesterday as well as today, and I understand that we're going to be able to take a live look right now at some things going on Capitol Hill. There is right now a prayer vigil going on Capitol Hill. A lot of key lawmakers there for this prayer service. I don't know if we have that available. We can take a listen into that.
Job says this, "The thing which I feared greatly has come upon me. That which I was afraid has come to me. Today, what we have feared has come to our land." But again, like Job, we know that the grace of God can lead us to do the right thing. We ask God for the courage and the wisdom to respond rightly. I believe that God was with the victims of yesterday's attack. I believe God was with them in their hour of travail, fear, and death. I believe He is here with all of those who grieve and all those who suffer with these so many good and innocent people. And I believe He will be with us in our search for answers and justice. That's my prayer this evening. We're not going to sacrifice our ideals in the pursuit of the monsters who attacked us. We're not going to compromise our principles for what so many Americans fought and died. But we will root out those who committed this atrocity. We will pursue justice. And with God's grace, we're going to move forward. We're going to be a stronger nation and a better people than before. So let's again ask for God's mercy. Let's ask for God's forgiveness upon those who did this terrible deed, and that they might repent and turn to a different life. And let us then try to find what is the good and righteous thing to do. God bless you, and God bless America.
Twenty-two years ago, July 28th, we celebrated the third day of our 25-year-old daughter. And this hot July summer afternoon in Norman, Oklahoma, we had invited about 10 or 12 kids from the apartment complex come over and eat cake and ice cream and have fun and do the things that you do at a 3-year-old's birthday party. And after we'd eaten cake and ice cream, we went outside and gave all the kids balloons, and our 3-year-old daughter was playing with her balloon. And over in the shade where the adults were standing, we heard a noise, and we turned and looked, and my daughter was reaching over, picking up this red broken balloon. She came to me, her daddy, and she climbed up in my lap and she stuck it out to me. And she said, "Here, Daddy, fix it." Now, I couldn't convince Lakeisha that her daddy could not put her balloon back together again. And I tell you that story because there are often times in our lives and in the life of our nation that things happen that we don't know why. We can't answer the tough questions. But there are things in our nation's life that happens that we just have to call on our faith and just go and climb in God's lap and say, "Here, Father, fix it." Our hearts go out to all the victims and all the people that were involved in the tragedy that we experienced and that we saw unfold right before our very eyes here in Washington, D.C. and in New York. And we've got some members of Congress who are from Oklahoma here tonight. And we know firsthand that nothing can replace the loss that was felt yesterday, and that only time and love and prayers can begin to heal the wounds. So it is my prayer that God would lift our eyes, that we might see the world as He sees it. That God would hold up our hearts, that we might respond to the hurts around us as He would. And
so there you see what's going on Capitol Hill live this evening. A lot of powerful words from a lot of key lawmakers on Capitol Hill expressing their thoughts on what has happened in these last few hours. It seems like weeks ago that it started, but really was just yesterday morning. Let's move on and discuss some of the things that happened today. President Bush has taken every opportunity to make clear that the United States will do what is necessary to bring to justice those responsible for yesterday's terrorist attacks. The FBI has already begun to take suspects into custody, and we are also hearing that federal agents believe they have relevant information to justify the arrest. Here's some more information. FBI agents in Boston, Massachusetts, and Vero Beach, Florida, have taken men into custody believed to have been linked to yesterday's attacks.
The 4 planes were hijacked by between 3 and 6 individuals per plane, using knives and box cutters, and in some cases making bomb threats.
President Bush reiterated that all federal resources necessary will be used to find and bring to justice those responsible for yesterday's devastation.
This is an enemy that tries to hide, but it won't be able to hide forever.
Determined not to be controlled by fear, the Pentagon opened today despite yesterday's terrorist plane attack that tore a hole in a section of the nation's military headquarters. Estimates for the number of dead range from 100 to 800. Manhattan is where this disaster first began when 2 hijacked planes crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, causing both of them to collapse. A third building nearby crumbled hours later. 12 special urban search and rescue teams are on the scene, sifting through rubble in New York and Washington.
Our focus is still in a response mode, and that would be to identify, if we can, those that are still alive and remove them from the rubble.
A 4th hijacked plane crashed in a field near Pittsburgh. U.S. intelligence officials say there are good indications that persons linked to Osama bin Laden are responsible for yesterday's destruction. Now, some more information for you. The White House has confirmed today that President Bush was a target of yesterday's terrorist attacks, saying that there is, quote, specific, credible information that the White House as well as Air Force One were targets. The White House was a target, they're saying, instead of the Pentagon, which actually ended up being hit. As you saw a little bit earlier, actually you may have seen this video earlier, we didn't have it tonight, there were fighter jets actually escorting Air Force One. Also, officials say the FBI have identified most of the hijackers who commandeered and crashed 4 airliners and their suspected accomplices. Authorities looking for suspects have detained and questioned several people, but nobody actually has been arrested. And here's a bit of news that this is something that may prove to be one of the larger stories out of this. America's NATO allies have declared the terrorist attacks in New York and Washington can be considered an attack on the entire alliance if they were directed from somewhere abroad. The alliance's ambassadors have decided to invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter for the first time in history, meaning that they will indeed step in if necessary, everyone in NATO. The stock market looks like it's not going to reopen until Friday, and President Bush says that he may be asking Congress for billions of dollars in immediate emergency funds to help rebuild the terrorist assaults and prevent any future attacks like this. Meanwhile, some of the members of both parties of Congress are saying that some of the partisan fights we were seeing not too long ago, just a week ago, over whether to tap into the Social Security surplus appear to be finished, at least for now. Certainly other pressing issues need to be taken care of in Washington. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Mark Despotakis. Now back to you.
Thanks, Mark. The Tuesday terrorist attacks have left America in shock, but the nation has begun to respond with open hearts. Emergency blood drives have been set up all over the country, and America seems to be answering the call. In California, the Red Cross says a record number of people have signed up to donate blood. CNN's Thelma Gutierrez has more.
At the American Red Cross in the heart of Los Angeles, a long line formed outside the door. Dozens waited to come in and donate blood.
I lived in New York for about 12 years, and so I really wish that I were there to help more directly. So this is a little I can do.
Inside was a scene staff members say they had never witnessed before. Donors, hundreds of them, lined the corridors, sitting on the floor, and any place else they could find space, waiting for their names to be called.
I have never seen this type of turnout. I've been here for 5 years. This turnout is just, it's amazing. It's amazing how when a tragedy like this happens, people are just moved to do something, anything they can to show that they care.
15 Red Cross technicians drew blood while volunteers kept the lines moving. They were overwhelmed by the response. One Red Cross center estimates 250 units of blood was collected on Tuesday, an unprecedented amount in one day. The problem remains in how to transport the supply. According to a spokeswoman, the blood must first be tested. The Red Cross is negotiating with the military to deliver the supply to the East Coast. The wait to give blood at one Southern California center was up to 5 hours, but the staff said no one complained. Thelma Gutierrez, CNN, Los Angeles.
Do you want to donate blood for the victims in New York and Washington, D.C.? A blood drive is scheduled for September 25th in the Tippin Gymnasium here at the university. The Red Cross has stated that the increased need for blood will continue up to and well beyond that date. Everyone that can is encouraged to donate on September 25th.
In wake of the tragic event that has gripped our nation for the last 48 hours, our community has responded by coming together. TV5's Kelly Esno joins us live in the newsroom to tell us how they are coping with this tragedy. Kelly?
The Clarion community is helping victims of the attack yesterday by holding prayer vigils the rest of this week. I had the opportunity yesterday to speak with Pastor Mark Cummings of the Zion Baptist Church, who had a strong statement on his views of what took place yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Look at our country, they look at what's happening, and maybe they go discouraged. But I think today we have seen that there is a common thread that runs through us as American citizens.
Sentiments sum up what many around the nation are feeling after yesterday's attacks. Those feelings were summed up here at a prayer vigil held last night at the First Presbyterian Church. Here's a look at some of the church services that will be held in the coming days. Tomorrow night, there will be a prayer vigil at the First Baptist Church in Clarion at 7 p.m. The First Presbyterian Church is sponsoring a prayer vigil Friday night at 7 p.m. And Clarion University and the Clarion Ministerial Association will jointly host a campus community prayer vigil on Sunday at 8 p.m. in the Mark Boyd Auditorium. You can see the Clarion community is praying and have been praying for the friends and family of the victims of yesterday's attack on America. Live in the newsroom, I'm Kelly Esno. Now back to you.
Thanks, Kelly. Evidence connected to Tuesday's terrorist attacks on New York and Washington may have turned up in Boston. The Boston Globe says police found a bag belonging to a suspected hijacker. The Koran and a video on the flying commercial planes were reported inside. And the Boston Herald says a car containing Arabic flight training manuals was allegedly seized from a Logan International Airport parking lot. It says 5 Arab men are considered suspects, including 1 trained pilot. So far, the FBI has refused to comment. This tragedy that hit New York has lingered effects in Clarion as well. TV's 5's Josh Alterman went out to gauge the public's opinion.
Towards Alaska. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We will try to have Josh's story for you a little bit later here in the evening. Now back to our, we are now going to take a break, from our coverage on the attack of America. We will now be joined by Stephanie Dugan with TV5's Weather Center forecast. Stephanie? All right, Stephanie will be joining us in just a moment. Just recapping everything that's been happening. Stephanie will give you the weather right now.
View of the satellite map. As you can see, clouds are raising from the mid to upper part of Pennsylvania. As you can see, clouds are also covering all of the Great Lakes region, pushing towards this way, pushing easterly into our region. This will be this way until tomorrow morning, and as you can see, the overnight temperatures are going to be near to upper 50s throughout the whole eastern part of the nation up until Indiana, Ohio, all the regions. As you can see, Pittsburgh's high of 56 this evening. As you wake up tomorrow morning, though, the clouds will be pushing in, and it'll have cloud cover, and throughout most of the day, it will be drizzle and light rain. As you can see, a high-pressure system the whole way across the mid portion of the nation. And also in the southern portion of the nation is all rain. The 5-day outlook, Thursday through Monday, highs of 72 and Thursday, 61 throughout the weekend, cloudy tomorrow, and also as you head back into work week on Monday, it'll be high near 70. Thanks, and back to you, Jackie.
Thanks, Stephanie. The effects of Tuesday's reign of terror are impacting Americans all over the country in ways they didn't even initially consider. In Ohio, the prices of gasoline skyrocketed, while late last night there was a rush on local service stations here in Clarion. Yet oil prices fell Wednesday after OPEC members reassured markets that their supplies would not be disrupted by Tuesday's terrorist attacks on Washington and New York. Becky Anderson has the latest on the economic impact of the attacks.
Back pandemonium in the world's financial prices in London soaring to 9-month highs Tuesday, but steadying the prices in the aftermath, promises from the world's largest oil producers in the Middle East that production will continue as usual, and an assurance from OPEC that it will maintain supplies to keep oil prices stable.
We will maintain objectives to guarantee the stability in the market. If necessary, we will take additional policies, measures in order to maintain that.
But the oil markets remain volatile. Experts are warning that if the U.S. retaliates in response to the attacks, it could lead to massive disruption in oil supplies and send prices soaring once again.
It will heighten tension, and I think that would tend to push prices higher. If there is a U.S. military response, then I think that we would expect to see a bigger rise in prices.
And depending on the U.S. reaction, analysts say these attacks could change the face of oil markets altogether.
This is going to lead to a clear change in the relationship between oil-producing and oil-consuming countries, and there might even be, who knows, military implications in certain oil-producing regions as a result of what's happened.
Officials from the Gulf region say it's definitely business as usual, But with many market participants in mourning, expect further confusion and volatility, with the London oil market closing early on Wednesday as a mark of respect to the victims. Becky Anderson, CNN Financial News, London.
We now have Josh Alterman's story about the lingering effects of yesterday's attack and how it has affected the Clarion area. And Josh went out to gauge the public opinion. So, Josh?
It's Wednesday, September 12, 2001, the day after the single worst terrorist bombings in American history. What was ready to find out?
Well, obviously, I have the same shock and horror that most everyone else in the country does at this point. I'm still a little in disbelief about the whole thing. Right now, I guess I'm wondering what the ramifications of everything is going to be. What's going to happen next?
It's just a sad time in our history, really, and it's a shame we had to lose so many lives. And in a day in such high technology, I can't understand why it happened.
I'm still stunned and hope that all of us find some ways to get past that and remember to treat each other, all of us, respectfully.
In Clarion, Josh Alderton, TV5 News.
As Americans cope with the shock and grief that followed the terrorist attacks in Washington and New York, expatriates living abroad are also struggling with the loss of life. James Bitterman has reaction from expatriates living in Paris.
4,000 miles and an ocean away, worshippers in these distant pews were in no less shock than if they had been looking on from the streets of lower Manhattan. In this globalized world with its globalized terror, you can be an American in Paris and be just as grief-stricken. Churchmen knew people came to grieve together and used the moment to warn against letting the wrong emotions carry the day.
Yes, we need to go find these people, and we need to deal with them with justice, not out of mindless vengeance and hatred to repay them, but because we, Americans, we don't live like that.
In the end, it was more than just the shared empathy Americans do. Those whose lives led them to Paris are often exactly the sort of people who know New York, who know Washington, and fear for friends left behind. Expatriated, but still patriots, some of whom believe their homeland has been too disengaged from world affairs.
I really hope that it brings us out of isolation. You cannot make peace worldwide. You cannot have peoples living together if they don't communicate. And the only way to do that is to come out of isolation and work together.
The priest at the Episcopal Cathedral here remembered the words of Douglas MacArthur at the end of World War II. If we will not devise a more equitable system than war, the general said, Armageddon will be at our doors. But the words that echoed longest after the prayer service was over were the ones that came at the very end. Words most in the church had learned from childhood, but in a now and forever less innocent world, words whose meaning will never be quite the same. Jim Bitterman, CNN, Paris.
It was the worst terroristic attack in history of the United States, but the horrific effects have been felt around the globe. Christiane Amanpour has the latest reaction from London, where flags are poised at half-staff.
Flags are flown at half-staff in England and around Europe. Flowers pile up at U.S. embassies. Sympathy and especially shock are growing. In the wake of the worst terrorist attack anywhere, on a scale Western leaders say they had never even contemplated, newspapers talk of a declaration of war on America. Politicians from the world's democracies say that today, everyone is American.
We all agreed that this attack is an attack not only on America, but on the free and democratic world. It demands our complete and united condemnation, our determination to bring those responsible to justice,
European bourses and brokers suspended trading for a minute to show respect for the dead.
Un minuto di silenzio.
European leaders have called emergency security meetings, and for the first time in its history, NATO has invoked its Cold War treaty that provides for all members to come to the defense of any one of its members under attack.
We stand firm, we stand committed. Thank you very much.
One after the other, world leaders stood up in sympathy and solidarity. President Vladimir Putin saying that Russia will observe a moment of silence on Thursday. German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder says that Germany stands with America and everyone who's for peace and freedom around the world. The same messages came from all European capitals, from Japanese leaders and the Chinese president as well. There were sour notes sounded too. Some people in some countries said the catastrophe should be a warning to the United States. To have so many people die, though it's unreasonable, is a warning to Bush and his administration not to make policies that bully other countries, says this Chinese taxi driver. Back in Britain, which is one of America's strongest and closest allies, Prince Charles came to offer condolences to the United States ambassador, mindful that many Britons working in New York are likely to be among the victims. Prime Minister Blair said that all European leaders and the President of Russia are trying now to forge a united front to try to identify, defeat and dismantle what he called this machinery of terror. Christiana Manpour, CNN, London.
It has now been 35 hours since our nation was attacked by terrorists.
But our nation is making it through this terrible ordeal, coming together to support one another.
We leave you tonight with Senator Chuck Schumer with words of encouragement for New Yorkers, Americans, and citizens of the world.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow again with Pat Grace and Susan Onrad, where they bring you TV's 5 coverage of the attack on America.
President yesterday, and I assured him something I think I speak for all of us. Partisanship, divisions are out the window when it comes to this. He will be our leader. We will unite. This is a long struggle, my colleagues. It is not an easy struggle. But because of our freedom, because of our American way of life, we will prevail. And so, in conclusion, this event will never leave us the same. Not as individuals, not as New Yorkers, not as Americans, not as residents of the planet Earth. But we can learn from it as we grieve. We can meet the challenge and rise to the next level of civilization. I'm confident we will.
The organization runs high school sports.